to take their, woo, okay, excellent. Yeah, so they are here to speak. The format that we ended up deciding on, and we did send this to all the candidates earlier, I can't remember exactly when, but it did go out, that we'd have 3 minutes for them to speak. And then we generated 5 questions and put them out like on our Facebook page for a vote even. We'll be asking all of the candidates the same question, and they'll have 1 minute for each question to respond. So yeah, so I guess we'll go ahead and the order, I'm just saying this to let you know that we try to be as equitable as possible. All of the candidates decided they are okay with the order that everyone is speaking. So that was arranged and everyone's cool with it. So our first speaker is going to be Darden Rice. And again, Darden, you've got 3 minutes to give your whatever you would like to share with everybody. And I'll start the clock whenever you want to get started.
I'm getting a message that I'm being invited to join room 1 by Matt Allen.
Yeah, you just go ahead and ignore that. And when you're done speaking, you can go ahead and join the room. We'll tell the other candidates to come back and join us at that point.
Okay, so just
ignore for now.
Click not now, or I just
say not now, please.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. Thank you. Well, thank you, Christy Faust, Matt Allen, Dr. Sharon Jackson, and all the members of the District 70 Dems, and everyone who's joined us tonight, my fellow candidates. Hello. My name is Darden Rice, and I'm running for mayor because we need bold new ideas to address our most pressing needs, and that's recovery, economic recovery from the pandemic, protecting our clean water, fighting for the affordability of our homes and small business storefronts, and really just building a city that works for everyone. I've been serving on city council for the past almost 8 years. I've also served as the chair of city council, the chair of PSTA. I'm currently the chair of Forward Pinellas, and I'm an executive board member of Tampa Bay Water. I'm so proud of what we've accomplished in the last 8 years. We finally, when first elected, brought universal curbside recycling to St. Pete. We created the very first ever environmental committee that guided us through climate policy, clean water, plastic use reduction, just to name a few. We created the South Side CRA to help rebuild the South Side and to fight poverty, putting a focus on people. We passed a wage theft prevention ordinance and also a 10-year affordable housing plan. But we all know that there's plenty more work to do, and there's lots more to do to make our city a place that truly works for everyone. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak with all of you tonight. I'm looking forward to your questions. I'm looking forward to what you're hearing and thinking about what you want from your next mayor. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that. And we'll go ahead and, just run through the questions that folks in District 70 came up with. So I'll ask the question, and then you'll have just 1 minute to give a quick kind of overview response. So our first question, I had them in a better order. Yeah, we'll just go in order. So how would you facilitate a dialogue between law enforcement and the St. Pete community and citizens groups to address the issue of police reform?
Well, this is an incredibly critical issue because we want a city that's truly safe for everyone. We want to be safer within the 4 walls of our home, and we want to feel safer on the streets. I was very proud to vote for the use of body cams, and also to support what we call the CAL program, the Community Assistance Liaison Program, in which we train qualified social workers who are dispatched to service calls where that's a more appropriate call for service for that rather than sending an armed police officer. It's good for our citizens, it's good for the police, it's much better for the city as a whole. The initial numbers look really good, and I'm very proud to support this program. As mayor, I will strengthen our community policing model, our park, walk, and talk. Community policing is so important in terms of police officers getting out of their cars, building relationships with neighbors, knowing the names of the kids, playing in the streets. That is so critical as part of having more open, regular talk.
All right, so that's time.
Sorry,
and
I think there's someone, oh, sorry, okay.
yeah, we'll go to our second question now. So thank you so much for that response. So what are your top 2 accomplishments in public life?
Well, my top accomplishment was when I first got elected, I created the Wage Theft Prevention Ordinance. Wage theft is defined when someone isn't paid the full amount, their paycheck bounces, they're misclassified or not paid at all. Pinellas County was the 4th highest county in the state for this. And our program helped people get their money back without having to hire an attorney or losing a whole paycheck. I'm very proud of this, and I stood firm that we kept the enforcement part of it strong before it went to the county so that it wasn't weakened. I was also very proud to create the City Council's first environmental committee. This committee helped lead the way on policies and helped us obtain grant money, the $2 million for the Bloomberg Climate Cities grant. And it's really helped be a holding area for discussions about the environment in a way to really drive environmental protection ethics into the DNA of the city.
That's time. Thank you so much for that response. I know it's speedy, but we were trying to keep the flow and just get kind of general sorts of answers. So there was rhyme to our reason. All right. So our next question. What does affordable housing mean to you, and how have you fought to expedite this in the city of St. Pete?
Well, affordable housing is very important to me because after my parents divorced when I was 12, my mom was a single mother. Being able to find affordable housing near our neighborhood was a way that my brother and I could continue to go to the same school and keep the same friends. So it's very important to me. We don't want to price people out of St. Petersburg. I was very proud to secure $15 million in funding for affordable housing. And I think the way that we help make it go faster is we look at ways to help create incentives. We've created a revolving loan fund so that our staff is able to negotiate with developers to help build more affordable units in their projects. We do have to be more goal oriented. We can't just sit back and wait for projects to come to us. We have to be very focused on the number of units that we want to build in the next 5 to 10 years and really go after it proactively and look for permanent affordable housing too.
All right, thank you for that. Okay, and kind of a follow-up question. How will you ensure affordable housing for all residents, no matter what the housing market is like?
The best way to ensure affordable housing, one way is through community land banking. That way the city owns the property so that whatever we lease that's built on that ground, we can control and set the terms so that no matter who lives there and moves out and the tenants change through the years, that land, those units, those houses will always be affordable. We can do that for apartments. We can even do that for single family homes. Also, some of the terms for borrowing, it's usually like a 15-year or a 30-year note. So that's another way that we can look to ensure that we have affordable housing in those areas for 30 years. As we know that the loans are coming up and the tax credits expire, we can set up programs to help continue those credits to keep those affordable housing apartments, multifamily units, and homes continue to be affordable.
Thank you so much. And last question. So how would you work to make restitution to the Black community who was displaced years ago as part of the trop redevelopment?
Yeah, there's no justice without accountability. And it's so important to keep in the forefront of our minds the real impact that happened decades ago when Black families were displaced from homes, from businesses, from churches. And that has to be at the forefront of our mind when we talk about equity. And that has to be at the forefront of our mind as we talk about the importance of equal opportunity and job creation, affordable housing, and bringing good paying jobs to the area. It's so important to keep in mind the broken promises and really make whole on that. And we do that by working very closely with the entire community, especially the Black community, to work with them and through the master development process and selection, and the years following in which we work together and redevelop this site. It has to be the entire community, and we can never forget the broken promises.
All right. Yeah, thank you so much, and that's time. Yeah, thank you so much for speaking with us and for answering our questions.
Okay.
We definitely appreciate your time. And while the campaign's going on, I'm sure you're super busy. So thanks for coming and talking with us.
Thank you, Christy. I really enjoyed being here with everybody. And thank you for providing this opportunity to hear and talk to each other. I hope to see you all again very soon.
Sounds good. Thank you. All right. So we'll go to our next candidate. So Ken Welch is going to go next. So Ken, you'll have 3 minutes to, talk to folks, and I'll start when you do.
Well, thanks for having me back. I was in the abyss for a while. I didn't know where I was. I guess I was in a breakout room, but it's good to be back. I'm Ken Welch, and I've had the honor of serving as county commissioner in this county for 5 terms, and I want to thank all the Democrats of House District 70 for your support over the years. We've come a long way. This is my hometown, and we are now the city that I think we always hoped we would become. We've got a great downtown. We've got an emerging city where folks want to come and live here and work and retire here. But all that new development in and of itself is not progress, in my view. There are a lot of things that need to happen to have inclusive progress in our city, from housing to making sure that we make the right environmental infrastructure investments, to equity, and certainly making sure that those promises that were made 35 years ago in the gas plant area finally come to fruition. All those things are important, and all those things I think require partnerships, and that's been my way of work as a commissioner for 20 years, is building partnerships, building consensus around issues, and then making things happen in our county. Housing is a great example. In 2006, in my first term as chairman of the commission, we created the first countywide housing program that created the Housing Trust Fund. And we seeded that initially with $20 million. And over the years, we've increased that, including $82.5 million in the last penny for Pinellas. And that already has put 4,000 units of affordable housing on the ground in Pinellas County and in St. Petersburg. We need to continue to do that because we have a community where folks more and more can't afford to live here. The folks who we're calling essential can't afford to live in our community. And so we need to be very intentional about utilizing those funds, changing our processes, our procedures, our regulations to incentivize affordable housing. And I'm talking about true affordable housing. Folks that make 80% of our area median income, those folks are making about $19 an hour. And traditionally, that's where the county has focused those subsidies. We need to continue to do that because a lot of folks in our community don't make $19 an hour. And then there are issues like developing our community, addressing poverty. I've led on that through the creation of our first community redevelopment area that addresses poverty directly. And then last year during the pandemic, I was one of the leaders on our commission. I'm proud of our commission that listened to the science, listened to the medical professionals, and did the right things to keep our community safe. Even though there was a lot of folks out there who had different science and wanted us not to have a mask ordinance, wanted us to leave the county wide open, because we listened to the science, we did shut down the beaches when it was required that we do that. We did have a safer at home order countywide, and we did require masks because that's what the science says. That's the kind of
Right.
leadership I want to bring to the mayor's office.
Thank you so much. All right, so we're going to go through the same questions in the same
Okay.
order. And so that first question, oh, sorry, let me scroll a little bit. So that first question, how would you facilitate a dialogue between law enforcement and St. Pete community and citizens groups to address the issue of police reform? So you have 1 minute.
Okay, well, we have been doing that for years. Back in '06, when I chaired the homeless policy group, we started funding services so that the police didn't have to respond to issues like homelessness. We started the funding for outreach teams that paired a social service worker with a law enforcement officer in several places around the county so that we would not be arresting folks for homelessness. We started the APAD program, which is adult pre-arrest diversion, so that we would not arrest folks for minor violations like small amounts of marijuana or trespassing. More than 4,000 people have taken advantage of that countywide and avoided an arrest, done community service, and not had a record that prevents them from having a job. And so we have worked with law enforcement and the community for years, and will continue to do that. Most recently, in response to the George Floyd issue, I supported cameras for the sheriff's department. The sheriff changed his opinion and went ahead and implemented cameras, and I helped support that as well.
Thank you for that response. All right, next question. What are your top 2 accomplishments in public life? In 1 minute.
Wow, I didn't see that one coming. So I think the CRA certainly was a change in county policy. The county had never funded a CRA that was not in a downtown. And so the Pier, the Mahaffey Theater, they all qualified for hundreds of millions of dollars of CRA funding under the term of slum and blight. Yet we never created a CRA to address poverty. The South St. CRA was the first ever in the county history to address poverty. There are 25 years more to go on that CRA, and it will bring in well over $100 million that we can use to address poverty. I'd say that's my top issue, and housing, I think, would be the second issue, but there are many others, including helping to lead the state in diversion, so we're not arresting folks, but giving them alternatives.
Okay. Thank you for that response. Next question. So what does affordable housing mean to you, and how have you fought to expedite this in the city of St. Petersburg?
Well, the most recent thing that we've done, and I've given you some of the history, was include $82.5 million in the latest penny for Pinellas that was voted on in 2017 and received more than 80% of the vote. We included $82.5 million off the top that would be used countywide for affordable housing. Those dollars are there. They're now being accessed. If you're familiar with the Skyway lofts where the Dunkin' Donuts used to be, Dunkin' Donuts is still there, but Kmart is across the street on 34th Street South. Those are 65 units, all affordable, that are being built by Blue Sky, and they are accessing those dollars. So you're already seeing hundreds of units going on the ground from that latest penny, and that's how you expedite it. The funding is there. Pull it down as quickly as possible and expedite your processes to get that development on the ground.
Okay. Thank you for that response. Kind of a follow-up question. How will you ensure affordable housing for all residents, no matter what the housing market is like?
Well, I think what the county has done traditionally with those housing trust fund dollars is to concentrate it on 80% AMI and below. That's roughly, in today's dollars, $19 an hour and below. Folks who make that can afford those apartments without spending more than 30% of their income on housing. That's where we focus. Now, there's another, workforce housing element for folks making 80 to 120% AMI. We should fund those as well, but the bulk of the money should go to folks making $19 and less, which is 80% AMI, because that's where the greatest need is. For workforce housing, there are other things we can do: expedite processing, change our regulations, density bonuses. We can do all that. And I think you have to be balanced in that approach. But you can't call affordable housing folks making $80,000, $90,000 an hour and ignore the folks who make less than that really are the essential people in our community.
All right, thank you for that. Okay, last question. How will you work to make restitution to the Black community who was displaced years ago as part of the Trop redevelopment?
Well, everything that I look at is from an equity lens. And so the CRA, that is essentially what it does. We are saying we're going to dedicate county and city funding for the next 25 years to address poverty. And a lot of that poverty came out of historical discrimination, including at the gas plant area. The other thing we need to do is to approve that community benefits agreement, which to me is just the start. But that says that the new development at the Trop will fund community building programs in other places of the city. And to me, there's no doubt it should be citywide because the impacts of discrimination were citywide as well. And so you have to be intentional about equity in everything we do, including development of the Trop.
Well, thank you so much again for, taking time out of your busy schedule to come and talk with us and giving us those responses to those questions. Yeah, thank you so much for your time and for being with us this evening.
Thank you. And I'm running to another neighborhood meeting, so excuse me. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, and our third candidate for the evening, Wenge Newton. So again, you'll have 3 minutes to give your talk, and I'll start whenever you do.
Can you hear me? Am I good?
Should be good. I can hear you.
First and foremost, I want to thank District 70, yourself, Christy, and Dr. Jackson for inviting me out. I always love coming to this. This is my home district. Everything I served in was in this district, 7 on council, 70 in the State House, and now as I come back to offer my services up for mayor, also in this district. I'm Representative Wenge Newton, born and raised in Midtown South St. Pete, the most impoverished area in all of Pinellas County. And it's been that way for the last 2 decades. Food stamps, welfare, government cheese, free lunch, reduced lunch, summer jobs, after school jobs, you're looking at it. But everything I'm not made me everything that I am. And I took full advantage of every opportunity to help realize my full potential. I served under 3 mayors, Mayor Baker, Mayor Foster, and Mayor Kreisman. I'm the longest serving individual in this race to serve as long in city government with 8 years on the council. No one has had 8 years on that council in this race, including the current administration. They won't have 8 years until January 2022. I've served 4 years in the legislature. I built relationships and bridges that I return home with to help move the city forward. I'm a lifetime member of the Florida House of Representatives, which means that on day 1 as mayor, I'll be able to step on that floor when they're in session and work with my colleagues that I built those relationships and bridges with, Speaker, Senate President, all of my colleagues on the floor, and the relationship I have with the governor's office. With that relationship, I brought home millions for Happy Workers, St. Pete Pal, Kind Mouse, and HIPPY, which is Home Instructions for Parents of Preschool Youth, for early learning program for our youth. It was important to build those relationships. So as you know, the House is made up. When I got there, I was part of the 2nd largest freshman class in the history of the House. It was 47 Democrats and 73 Republicans. Now I think it's about, they lost 5 seats, so it's 42 to 78. You have to be able to work across the aisle. I'm the only candidate with documented voting records of doing that. I was able to bring back that money and survive a $1 billion Republican veto pen because of the relationships and bridges that I built. So you don't have to like them, but you got to work with them to bring back much needed resources. Right now in our city, we got a lot of our people suffering from a massive sewage increase. My wife and I used to pay $80 a month for water, just my wife and I. Now we pay $140 something, and 70 of that is sewage. You have to have relationships to bring money back to work on those sewage programs and projects, so you don't have to raise taxes on people to make them pay. What hurt me the most is the seniors. I get a lot of calls from seniors that can't afford to pay their bills because they didn't get a 43% increase in their income. They're on a fixed income. So now they got to have less medicine or less food, and that's unfortunate. I returned to the city, like I said, to bring home the relationships and bridges that I built to continue moving St. Pete forward. I look forward to your questions, and I thank you for inviting me to attend this meeting.
Thank you. I like the timer. It's a little more gentle than just muting somebody. So thank you. Thank you for that there. Okay, for that response. And we'll go through the questions again. You'll have 1 minute to respond. That first question, how would you facilitate a dialogue between law enforcement in the St. Pete community and citizens groups to address the issue of police reform?
Thanks for the question. I always shared a relationship with law enforcement and first responders. They've endorsed me from day one on my county commission, on my city council race and my state house race, even my latest county commission race. I got all the major endorsements, including law enforcement. I spoke with the PBA president. He was more than willing to. He had 24 items he was willing to sit down and talk about doing. What people need to realize is this: we call the police for everything, not everything, everything. Cat in the tree, domestic violence, noisy neighbors, you name it, the police have to respond to all of it. So what they were saying was they're more than happy to get some of that stuff off their plate. What's important to them is the pensions and the benefits that they use to feed their families. Everything else is negotiable. So I would love to sit down with the community and them to find out ways we can get things done, not just talking about it, done. And they're willing to do that. They shared that with me.
Thank you so much.
This was going to happen since they start talking. It's probably the police. Just kidding.
All right, so thank you so much for that response. And second question, so what are your top 2 accomplishments in public life?
Oh, wow. On the council, number 1 had to be getting rid of those red light cameras. That was the worst. That was a poll tax in itself, and it caused a lot of people a lot of distress, mostly people who could ill afford to pay it, and they had to go. So when I when I was on council, I made motions constantly to get rid of those and kill those. And it's more than just 2. Secondly, if I had to name 2, I would say the second one was having breaking ground and putting a Midtown GTE Federal Credit Union in Midtown. They have a financial organization so people can build a financial relationship. The first year we opened up 1,500 brand new accounts in an area where they said it couldn't be banked, 22nd Street and 18th Avenue South. And what I did also was took the money away that we were given to Bank of America, put it in GTE for our summer jobs, so those kids can have accounts open up and they can have a relationship, a financial relationship that I didn't have when I started. My mom had a Winn-Dixie check cashing card, so I had a Winn-Dixie check cashing card. So that was the biggest, I think, having a GTE there in the community.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing with that. All right, third question. So what does affordable housing mean to you, and how have you fought to expedite this in the city of St. Pete, or in the city of St. Petersburg?
Okay, affordable housing to me is a slogan that everybody keeps using because it sounds good, okay? There's no such thing. I mean, I support $15 an hour, but if you get $15 an hour, your landlord knows you got $15. So your rent going up. See, so your situation stays the same. I support affordable housing in the pursuit of affordable home ownership, equity, and generational wealth. I do that by sponsoring and bringing money home for Habitat for Humanities. They're doing that, and that's important. I also have an organization I'm working with that if you're paying $1,000 or $2,000 a month in rent, you're already paying a mortgage, but it's not yours. So what they do is get you credit worthy, get you a mortgage, tell you to go out and buy a house, and they'll give you that house back as a rent option. You can rent that house back, pay a little bit more on the option, and then somewhere off in the future you can close. But if you don't decide you don't want to close in 10 years, you can take all that equity and walk away with it. We need to make sure we get people financially sound so they can own their own home. That's going to be the answer to it. When you own a home, the rent stays the same. You don't have to worry about the increase, but the wages never go up with the price of the house.
And that's time there. All right. Thank you for that response. And again, the follow-up question, how will you ensure affordable housing for all residents, no matter what the housing market is like?
Well, the biggest thing was for me, my last section was we, for the first time, aborted the sweeping of the Sadowski Housing Trust Fund, brought on $380 million for affordable housing for programs like Habitat. We must continue to do that, but I want to make sure that we have people financially sound so they can own their own home. That's the key. All this stuff about slogans about affordable, we've been talking about that for years. I mean, over 20 years, you've been hearing that. You got the same situation in South St. Pete. Gentrification has really decimated the housing market down there because you can't afford the rent where you used to could afford to rent it. So you're getting pushed out. There was no organization, there was no structure to letting that happen. So it was free fall, and now you have people that can't afford to live where they used to be able to live.
Great. Thank you for that response. Okay, and last question. So how will you work to make restitution to the Black community who was displaced years ago as part of the TROP redevelopment?
Simple. You redraw the lines for that Southside CRA to include the TROP. Right now, the line goes straight to downtown from 16th Street, okay? And if you've been downtown don't mean nothing. The hurt is to the south of the TROP. It's a shame that you can make $1 billion in revenue in baseball, and not a nickel, dime, or penny roll across the street into the most impoverished area in the whole county. I want to make sure that that those proceeds come from that property go to once and for all cure that area. Also, I want to make some set-asides there for Black businesses. That was our Black Wall Street. We had businesses, churches, barbershops, food. 75% of every dollar that was generated in that community stayed in that community. 25% went to go out and get more money to bring back. When they ran the interstate through there, they put it on life support. When they dropped the TROP on the top of them with gentrification and I forget the slogan, it's coming to me. But when they came in and took all that property, it was devastating for that community. The only way you can put it back is the redraw the line.
So that's time for that one. Okay. Sorry. Thank you. Yeah. It feels very awkward to cut everybody off because I don't want to be rude, but well, we made the rules. So, so thank you for.
I'm just saying, a minute's really hard to respond to something so important, but I'll play by the rules.
Yeah, sure. And we were just looking for, just a quick answer. And over the months, we'll certainly hear more from you. And that was the idea from everyone. So thank you for everyone. I know Ken Welch has already left, and maybe Darden Rice has too. But yeah, again, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule and to coming to educate us about your different campaigns. We definitely appreciate it. And yeah, just thank you so much.
Oh, no questions? I thought you had questions at the end. I'm sorry.
Those are, yeah, we just have the 5 questions for now. We decided to do it that sort of way,
okay.
A little more structured. So just to be consistent, a little more consistent with stuff. So
yeah, fine.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you so much for your time, and thank you everyone. Oh, what's that?
So thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, definitely. Glad you could come. Okay, so that does so then we'll be moving on to our next items on our agenda after our speakers. Yeah, so the first thing is Steve Johnson is going to just take a couple minutes and tell us about our voter registration, our canvassing that we've been doing. So Steve, you got about 5 minutes for that if you want that much time, but just give us an overview about your experience with that.
I was going to invite Chelsea to jump in, but looks like she dropped off. If she had anything to add. So working with District 68, GOTV Pinellas, we've been going door to door and actually knocking every door in 3 selected precincts. Chelsea's is, I think, 204 or 205.
Yeah, Chelsea's in 204.
204 and 226, 227. And looking for people to register, that's why every door. And Republicans, I haven't formed an opinion on that also, although in these precincts there aren't many. And so we're pulling good feedback off the people. it is manpower, time intensive to cover, we're only, I think Mary Fahey, who leads GeoTV Pinellas, looks at these 3 precincts and 3 others up in 68 as her test bed for the Stacey Abrams approach to community organizing. So have we found new volunteers? For sure 3 or 4, especially Chelsea had some success at that. And so it's been it's been a tonic, and I'm sure many are wondering how we, is it productive for every door? It probably wouldn't work in every precinct. It probably wouldn't be a good investment of time in every precinct. But I honestly think it's promising in these African-American precincts that actually have had no volunteer activity, with it, for as long as I've been working with District 70, or very little of it. And I'll just throw it open to questions. Anyway, and it's been a tonic. It's fun talking to voters.
Hi, Steve. This is Caprice. What have you seen to be most effective, or what has led you to get the best feedback when reaching out to potential voters?
Getting early in the conversation, getting the question, what matters to you here in your neighborhood? And of course, many are, you run into busy people and you don't ever get to that question, but that has pulled some response, on Saturdays where people have a little time to respond. And by the way, what we've the most consistent ones have been traffic safety and gun safety along, for folks that are along the 34th Street corridor or near the 40th Street corridor, and affordable but decent housing has been the biggest feedback on neighborhood level things. And of course, people just bitch about whatever they want to bitch about.
Was Mary ever able to get a hold of that program from Hillsborough that has homes with unregistered voters?
I believe Ed's going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Great.
So,
but I don't know if Mary, I don't know if GeoTV Pinellas is working with it at all yet.
I think they have it too. But as far as these efforts go, we would definitely, we have something like 15 precincts that don't have any precinct committee people, which they don't need. Like, ultimately, like what we would like to get is block captains, building captains, somebody there, right? That could act as a bit of a representative. So if you're interested in volunteering, Mary Fahey's team, they're very good about training folks about how to knock on doors. So if it's not something you've done in a while, or if it's something that you need some practice on, you'll be trained, you'll be paired with someone who has done it and that sort of thing. And yeah, it's just like, to me, it's a walk in a neighborhood and you're talking to your neighbors. Like, it really is, it's that, and it's building community and building our neighborhood. And with that might sound like, oh, we're not just doing voter registration, like that we're diverting our energy, but honestly, that's what it takes to get people to go to the polls. Like, what are we voting for if we're not, building our community and stuff? So if you're interested in getting involved, you can reach out to me and I'll put you in contact. But honestly, Steve and Chelsea have been the heavy lifters. Chris Hoagland too has started doing some of this. So you're in good company with us building our team for this. And just from an organizer standpoint, this is the work. Like, this is really, it needs to be done for us to grow and for us to build power. So if you're interested, yeah, please, we would love to have more. And there's many ways to get involved. I guess I want to say that as well. You don't just have to go knock on doors. There's back back sorts of work. So if you can't go canvas, that's totally fine. We need help with flyers, and we need help with different things on the back end too. So if you're curious about that, please reach out, and we would love to plug you into that work. Thank you so much, Steve, for telling folks a bit more about our efforts on that front. And like you said, Ed is going to talk to us about Mapper. So Ed, let me just pause for a moment before segueing into Ed speaking. With having our mayor candidates and structuring it the way we did, we're probably going to go over on time. So if you look down at the bottom of your screen, you should see reactions. So if you're okay with us going, we'll just say maximum 15 minutes over, give me a thumbs up. If you click on that little happy reaction face, you can give me a thumbs up. If you're not, you can just not do that, but that'll tell me something too. All right, it looks like we mostly have thumbs up. And if you have to leave at 7, that's cool too. We are recording this, so we'll put it on our YouTube. We got a YouTube, we're fancy. So we'll put it on our YouTube and get that link out to folks so that you can catch up on what you missed. So, all right. But now I'll turn over the mic to Ed, and he'll tell us about his work with Mapper.
Sure. As some of you know, Mapper is one of my favorite topics. For those who haven't heard of it, it's a new database application from the Democrats in Hillsborough that identifies single-family homes with no registered voter. It puts together property appraiser records and the voting records. So I think it's a very possibly fruitful way to get some people registered. I'd say there's about 150 to 250 to 300 in each precinct in that database, which is not, it's very doable. So I've created a training, or preface that I took the official training from the Mapper folks organized by Sharon Lowry, District 68. And I am now able to train other people. So I've done a training already for a couple of people. As you know, I love to do, I made a PowerPoint presentation that goes through it. It also reviews some basics in voter registration. So if anybody would like to get on one of those, in the chat, I'm going to put the times. Did it go in?
I don't.
Okay,
oh,
yeah, so it is June 6th and June 8th. If that doesn't work for you, just make a time with me and I'll take you through it. It takes about 25 minutes. Before you do that, I'd have to get you registered as an approved user. So that means getting your email and name to Sharon and to the people that run Mapper and getting you on the approved list. I'm also leading canvassing for precinct 205, my home precinct, on Sunday, June 13th at 2:00. So I'm going to try to feed the people from those June 6th and 8th trainings into that day, and we'll be definitely scheduling more. In my precinct, it works out to about 10 turfs. It's not quite made the same as a turf in minivan, which most of you are familiar with, but it's about 10 turfs, I'm calling them, that have about 15 or 16 houses in each turf. So it's very doable. So that's my story.
And so just weaving ideas together, this can be a valuable tool. Oh, what's that?
Sorry, I got to put my email in.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, so and Ed has been gracious enough to offer his services. He's the Mapper guy now. So thank you for taking that off of my plate, because right now I don't have the bandwidth for it. So thank you so much for taking responsibility for that. And this is like just a valuable tool that we can use in combination with our other canvassing events. So we can pause. We do have some time. Does anyone have any questions? We'll take a few moments for questions about either our canvassing efforts which, you know, kind of in conjunction with Mapper as well. So if you'd like to speak, if you have any questions or comments or curiosities, again, if you go down, I think if you go to the reactions, you can raise your hand, and then that way we're just not talking over each other that way. And so I see Caprice has her hand up. So what you got, Caprice?
I don't have a question about Mapper. However, I just wanted to thank you all for the great work that you're doing, as well as your support during my past election, as well as to share with you that I have filed and I'm running for re-election. And at this time, we are collecting petitions, asking for volunteers to join our team. And of course, the election will be in 2022, and all support is greatly appreciated. After the election, I hit the ground running, and I would love to share my accomplishments or our accomplishments, because without you all and the support of the community, I would not be an elected official. So I will save that for another date, and I'll drop my information in the chat. Thank you, Christy.
Yeah, thank you so much, Caprice. So definitely, if you're interested in helping Caprice out, reach out to her. Yeah. All right, Joe.
We have a history of always including Caprice's literature in our when we canvass.
All right, Joan, what you got?
My question is for Ed. I was wondering about if you've got any data back on the Mapper business, and when you get your data, how do you get that out to everybody else?
And by data, are you talking about an Excel list like we got last year?
No, well, that was helpful and great, but I don't mean that, because apparently that's not available at the moment. I meant if you got how many registrations you got from people, and if they give that feedback to you, and then what do you do with it? I'm just interested if there are any numbers on that.
You mean numbers of new voters that we register? No, we haven't gone out yet. I haven't let an outreach yet. That's on June 13th in the chat.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I just basically did the training, official training a couple of weeks ago, put my own thing together and started training folks. Let me know when you want to, Joan. If you can't take one of those dates, we'll make a time. And it's nice. It's basically, you're not going to get a list, but it's very easy to use the map feature from your cell phone.
And just keep an, okay, and Caprice put her information into the chat, so make sure to get that, and we'll be, yeah, we'll get that out to folks so that they know where to go and whatnot. But as far as like voter registration goes, with like the knock every door sort of method and whatnot, we don't, I know that they haven't always gotten a ton of voter registrations, but there's more than just quantifiable metrics that make it valuable, right? So it's not just about getting so many people registered. We're also, but as far as things that are more quantifiable, we're also cleaning up the database. Like we're getting rid of wrong addresses, right? People that don't live there anymore. We're updating records. We're also collecting data about what folks like and what they, you know, their issues that they care about and things like that as well. So, you know, it goes hand in hand, but just I wouldn't use that as the only metric for success when we think about this stuff. So just throwing that out there. All right, so I'm not let me scroll up here. I left my mouse at my other domicile. Okay, so we have, so I know the next thing on the agenda is committee and caucus report backs. I kind of put them last for a reason. From what I understand, a lot of them haven't really been meeting. So instead of just going through the list, and also I know someone can't be here tonight because they're out of town, so we don't necessarily have an update. So I'm going to pause for a moment, and please, if you are on one of these committees and you do have a report back, or if I forgot to list it, like sometimes I miss things that we don't have a representative, haven't had a representative for. So just raise your hand if you have a report back. and then we'll kind of take that in order, but this may go very quickly. None? All right, okay. I guess I put myself on there. My only real report back would be just, oh, the one thing that I need to write this down. Like I've been flying by the seat of my pants lately. One thing I've heard from District 70 folks is that you're sick of Zoom and that folks might like to meet in person in the near future. So for the next few months, we have candidates coming. So logistically, it's probably going to be easier for us to have this meeting via Zoom so that the candidates can more easily come, if that makes sense. But in our like leadership group that we have, we kind of threw around quickly the idea of a social. So let's say maybe here in a few weeks, middle of June, something like that. Give me a thumbs up if you would like to maybe have a social, probably at a park or something like that. You know, probably potlucky. We don't have a lot of money, so it'll probably be potlucky, but we'll try to get something in there that we've got $150, so maybe we can dive into that a bit. All right, so I see folks saying that they do want this. Would anyone want to take the lead on it? I can definitely provide support. And I don't know if these are lingering fingers or not. So Joan, okay, so let's stop. I'm gonna wait for hands. Put your hand back down, everybody. Okay, we'll lower your hand. Okay, let's do it again. Okay, so who can take the lead on this?
I think Steve Johnson is saying he is. I'm
Okay.
game.
Did he disappear? Oh, Steve, yeah, Steve, you're muted.
Well, I'm game for an in-person.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, I tell you what, you're catching me a titch flat-footed at the moment, but yeah, Christy, I'll give you some feedback tomorrow.
Okay, we have our next leadership meeting. That'd be pushing planning a little late to save it for the leader meeting. Yeah, it's totally fine if we want to catch up later. I don't think we have to spend a ton of time planning, so I might be able to handle some of it, but I would love for folks to, yeah, it'd be nice if someone besides me would take the lead on that. But so Steve, I'll catch up with you tomorrow.
All right, I'll do it.
Yay. See, you peer pressure somebody enough and then good things happen. Yes.
Unintentional.
I know. I've
now who's going to help Steve? That's the next question.
A bunch lately.
I can help.
So the second question is who's going to help Steve out?
I can help.
Kyrie raised his hand. I saw that. Put that in the minutes, Joan. Steve said he's going to lead. Get it in the minutes.
And Kyrie.
And at least Kyrie. And I'll throw in, I'll support as well, of course. And we can get some conversation going in our Slack channel about this. How's that sound there, gentlemen or gentle people? What's up, Joan?
There might be some people who are not at this meeting would be able to help out on this. So we need to reach out and ask people by email, I think.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, but at least a start. At least we have a start of folks. And I think that's good. And we can pull some other folks in as well. If we do potluck, we're definitely going to need folks to bring some stuff. So, all right, but we can coordinate that on the fly. All right, thank you so much for stepping up for that, folks. So we don't have report back. So now we are at like announcements, events, any trainings that you'd like to get out to folks in the next day or so. I'll make sure an email goes out to everybody and we'll make sure people see those. So we have a few minutes for those. So just raise your hand if you've got an event or a training or a general announcement. All right, seeing none. What's up, Steve?
Okay, yeah, just June 5, we're doing a canvas in 227, and anyone who would like to come out, I just dropped my email in the chat. for you, Kyrie, but anyone can grab it. But anyway, June 5, we're doing a door-to-door. It's a Saturday, 10 to 1. And that's all.
And I just want to uplift Ed's already put his trainings and as well as his canvassing event on June 13th. So there's a few of those in there as well. Oops. And just pausing for a moment to make sure we don't have any more announcement-y things. Oh, I'm going to put myself on stack. We've got a Facebook page. We've got a Facebook page. Go like our Facebook page. We've been putting stuff on it. Some stuff. We have a YouTube. What's the YouTube, Matt? I don't know what the YouTube is.
Let me see if I can quickly put the link into there. It'll take me a second to find it.
Yeah, I'm trying to do the same with the Facebook. I just got to grab it real quick. So yeah, so please like our Facebook page. If you have content that you want to go on it, you can email it to me if you want to, but you can share it there. Like it, invite your people. Oh, I beat you, retiree. I've got the quicker trigger with the Facebook thing. And then the YouTube, if ever you need to miss one of these meetings, we've been putting them there. So the past few meetings are up for that. And we'll start trying to get that out. So yeah, tomorrow or the next day, I'll be sending that out to folks who couldn't be here today. So there's a couple of announcements. And I'm not seeing any. Okay, so Matt just put our YouTube channel in there. So, you know, save that. And we'll share it out on Facebook as well to make sure folks have it. But we're trying to make that more of a tool, get things that out and that are, you know, that's going on in the district and that sort of thing. Sometimes political, sometimes just community based. So trying, you know, if you have things that need to go on there, let us know. All right. And so I guess we're at the end at our close. So thank you so much, everybody, for taking your Wednesday evening and being here, listening to our awesome mayoral candidates. Yeah, just thank you for your time and have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Have a good night, everyone.
Have a good night.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.